The UN's migration agency is warning humanitarian operations in Sudan's North Darfur region have been pushed to the brinks of collapse. Nearly 90,000 people have fled the region's capital, el-Fasher, since it was seized late last month by the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces that's reported to have carried out widespread atrocities in the city. Many of those fleeing the violence are arriving in already overcrowded displacement camps in nearby Tawila. Facilities are overwhelmed and people have little access to food, shelter, and medical supplies. Nearly 39,000 people have also fled violence in the neighboring North Kordofan region. That's since late October. The UN says during more than 2 years of war in Sudan, at least 40,000 people have been killed and 12 million forced from their homes. Aid groups say that the actual death toll could be many times higher. Well, Amy Pope joins us now. You're the Director General of the International Organization for Migration. You're joining us from Khartoum. Thank you for your time. So the IOM's statement says that, quote, humanitarian operations in Sudan are now on the brink of collapse. What happens if there's no sudden improvement?
Well, we're seeing it play out already. As you've noticed, there have been as many as 90,000 coming out of Darfur. When we look at the total displacement over the last 2 weeks, the number's been 150,000. But then you look at the scale of the response. We primarily work to provide safe shelter to people, hygiene kits, things just for basic sustenance. And the funding, the resources that we have at this moment in time are less than 8% of the need. So we'll see more people suffer. We'll see more people go without even just basic housing, basic support, the kinds of things that people need to continue living.
I wasn't aware of this number. You're saying the funding that you have available for this mission is less than 8% of what you need. How did we get to that?
Well, primarily because Darfur, the situation here in Sudan has remained fairly hidden from the public view. We're seeing this is the largest displacement crisis in the world. We've had more than 10 million people who've been displaced from their homes. Some have been displaced time and time again, yet it just doesn't receive the kind of attention that it deserves, given what's happening here. In addition, the humanitarian system as a whole has been hit by pretty significant funding cuts, which means that the money that's available to respond to people all over the world is insufficient and is just not getting to the people, all the people who need it.
90,000 people are estimated to have fled el-Fasher since the RSF took over there 2 weeks ago, and they were fleeing massacres. You spoke to some of those people. That's part of what you're in Khartoum for. What did you learn?
I heard really horrific stories you won't be surprised to hear. I was in a displaced persons camp just yesterday in Al-Afad. What I heard were mostly women and their children. Over 90% of the people who've been arriving are women and children. Speak about escaping with very, very little to carry, having to bring along children. Many could not make it. Many died along the way. They spoke about seeing dead bodies as they walked. They spoke about having to create makeshift trenches to avoid being shot at or being harmed by the drones. They spoke of unspeakable, unbearable sexual trauma, sexual abuse. The stories are really harrowing, and they're happening now even as we speak.
What about the people who were not able to flee and who are still in el-Fasher? We're talking about tens of thousands of people. Do you have an understanding of what they're going through?
Well, the primary concern is getting access to those communities so that they can be provided with some level of life-saving support. And there, the issue is primarily one of access. When humanitarian actors are themselves at risk, when they're killed, when they're shot, when they're detained, we can't get the people what they need to survive. And even we at IOM have seen the same thing happen with some of our team members who have lost their lives, who have been harmed as they've tried to provide aid to people. So that's the primary issue, is ensuring that there is a ceasefire, a humanitarian corridor, so that aid groups can bring in that aid to the civilians who are very much caught in the middle.
Yeah, access to the people who need the help is always really the main game in humanitarian settings. And typically big organizations such as yours organizations that have clout, they try to negotiate access, including to conflict zones, so that they can reach those people. Are you able to do that in this case? It sounds like it's not possible.
It's very, very complicated, and it's definitely not at the level that we all need. Now, over the next couple of months, my partners and other humanitarian organizations will all be making trips here to draw attention to it, to bring the necessary engagement to get that access. But without it, people will die, people will suffer, people will go homeless.
The IOM has urged donors, partners, and the international community to act now to prevent further loss of life. Those are the words in the statement that the International Organization for Migration put out. What does acting now look like?
Well, first and foremost, we have to recognize that without peace, any humanitarian aid is simply going to be a Band-Aid. Ultimately, the political engagement, the diplomatic pressure, the engagement from partners all over the world is essential. And that means bringing awareness to the conflict and helping people to really understand that what's happening here in Sudan impacts the region, impacts stability. We're already seeing, for example, Sudanese who are fleeing to Chad, who are fleeing to Libya, and to Egypt, of course. So this is a regional issue that requires more sustained diplomatic and political engagement to get peace. Then, of course, it means while that peace is being negotiated, it's critical that we have the life-saving humanitarian support for those who are caught in the middle. And so some of that's about the resources. Some of that is about ensuring that we have access to communities in need. None of that happens without more sustained engagement and attention from the public, from viewers, from governments.
Amy Pope, Director General of the International Organization for Migration. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Don't miss out to get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.